In 1980, Pat Benatar didn't just arrive on the rock scene, she kicked the door wide open. Crimes of Passion turned her into a powerhouse, packed with huge hooks, razor-sharp vocals, and songs that helped define the sound of early MTV. In this episode, we're turning it up and revisiting a record that still hits with the same force more than 4 decades later. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. If you remember when remote controls were optional and rock stars were not, then this is the show for you. You guys remember the pre-remote control era?
Yeah, I was a remote control.
Yes, I was too. Get up, Channel 9.
Or you know what? And then you had the cable boxes that were wired into the TV.
Yep.
And you had to walk up to them.
Used to just squat in front of the TV, just popping those buttons. Anyway, welcome one and all to the 3324 podcast. If it's your first time, welcome aboard. We appreciate you checking us out. If you're a returner, as always, thank you so much for your support and continued listenership, as it were. Eric is taking a little sabbatical today. And much like when Lindsey Buckingham left Fleetwood Mac, we need to replace one person with two. So
Mike Campbell and Neil Finn here filling in.
Or Rick Vito and Billy Burnett.
Yep.
For the Tango in the Night era. So sliding into spot number 1, Mr. Christopher Clark.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good to be here.
And it's been a minute since we've had this gentleman on, but always look forward to his attendance and his appearance, Mr. Rob DiStefano.
Yes, it's great to be back. It's been a little while, but it's good to be back.
Isn't it fun doing podcasts?
It's awesome. I love it.
I love every minute of it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just kind of fun. It's like, it's like having a conversation that I normally would have with my friends, but with intention and with a subject. Instead of landing on Pat Benatar, like we're going to actually start to talk there instead of talking about one thing and ending up at Pat Benatar. So that's what I love about podcasting is we get to pick a subject and start there.
Yep.
And see where it goes. So tonight, we're doing Pat Benatar from 1980, Crimes of Passion. One ask I have, if you're new to the show, you can go ahead and just hit the follow button on your podcast app, and this way you'll get a gentle notification when new episodes come out. And then you've got free will, as Rush says. You can decide whether or not you want to check that one out or save it for later, either way, or go check out our backlog. Oh my God, not a backlog, but a back catalog. We're closing in on episode number 300.
Wow.
Meaning full episode number 300. We've done special episodes, we've done quick hits, but our full episode number 300 is coming. It'll be here this year.
That's amazing.
Probably by the fall. And we have never missed a week.
That's amazing.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Not many podcasts can say that, man.
No, the statistic, I'll give you the statistic. When I first started podcasting, they said most people start out with good intentions, but most podcasts don't make it past the 7th episode.
Wow.
Yep. People fly out. They start big and then kind of flame out. So,
Yeah, that's accurate, I think.
Yeah. When Eric and I first started, I said, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We're in it for the long haul. So there you go. 5 years later, here we are. We are in our chairs. We are talking about the music and movies that shaped our lives. And we're going to get into it right now with, again, from 1980, Pat Benatar, Crimes of Passion album. We're going to start with some stats. First, as we always do, if you're new to the show, we give you some statistical information to kind of center the conversation. And then we kind of go into the theories and speculation and wild kind of ideas that we have about it. Your mileage may vary. Some of it you might agree with, some of it you might not. But either way, we invite you to also get involved in the conversation. There's on your podcast app, there's a fan mail or contact us button. You can message us, message the show directly, and we do respond to those. Anyway, here we go. The stats. This was released in August of 1980. Produced by Keith Olsen. We'll talk just a little bit about Keith Olsen in a moment. There were 3 singles released from this album. You Better Run hit number 24. Hit Me with Your Best Shot, hit number 9. Treat Me Right, hit number 18. This was on Billboard. It went to number 2. 4 times platinum, which is in excess of 4 million copies. Really nice. And Pat Benatar and Neil Spider Giraldo were 2022 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, which was about time.
And I was going to say long overdue.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, that you know, if you want to pick at that scab,
Yeah, no,
you know, that's a whole other conversation. But yes, Pat Benatar, a lot of these legacy artists are still waiting, and other acts are jumping the line.
And I love the fact, you know, and I give her all the credit in the world that she held out for her husband Neil Giraldo to go in with her, because technically he never had a name on the record. So technically he's not supposed to go in, which would be just completely absurd, because I mean, he was a core piece of all of those classic records that Pat Benatar recorded. So
yeah, because it wasn't
really
like it
awesome.
was called the Pat Benatar Group,
Right? Exactly.
and there was musicians, and he was always there. So
Right.
he's a core. You know, it was Pat Benatar, and we'll get into that too. I mean, yeah, we're going to give Neil Giraldo some love as well. I think we have to, because they are like inextricably linked forever now. Like now it is Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. Like you never really say Pat Benatar
No. And
nowadays without him.
And when she does interviews, he's always right there with her, like contributing. So
yeah, but for this for 1980, it was Pat Benatar. So let's get into this. Talk about, we can just a little bit of a prehistory. You know, Pat Benatar's debut album was only a year earlier, 1979. She literally burst onto the scene with a bang. I mean, all of a sudden, I don't know if you guys remember, but all of a sudden she was just kind of there. Like all of a sudden, this woman with this voice who was just ripping through rock songs in the late 70s. And it was like Pat Benatar. Like her name was almost immediately like made. Like, you know, there was no like working up to it. And she's out there, you know, kind of working it. It was like her debut album came out and boom, you know, I think that one went like 1 times platinum. Right. And,
well, the opening cut, Heartbreaker, is one of her most well-known songs. So from that record.
Yeah. That had Heartbreaker and I Need a Lover, which I did not know until much later was a cover of a John Mellencamp song, because that was not at the time. Benatar's version was the version.
Really?
Because John Mellencamp's version was on one of his earlier albums, but in 1980, John Mellencamp still hadn't hit yet.
That's true. Yeah, you don't think about it.
Like American Fool was his big one, and that hadn't hit yet. So this was kind of, so you know, we're kind of looking at Pat Benatar picking an obscure song somewhat that was already recorded to do it, and then it wasn't until many years later that I heard the Mellencamp version, which I now prefer.
Yeah, me too.
Just because it's so epic.
Oh, it's great.
Like it has that long intro. Like it's got like a 2 or 3 minute intro. It's like really like an ambitious thing for him.
Yeah, that record is all intro for sure.
Yeah, but back in the day, Rob, I don't know if you remember, but the Benatar version was like that was it. It was like much like the way Linda Ronstadt takes pre-recorded or pre-written material and she transforms it and makes it her own. Yeah. Where you didn't know that this was a cover. Benatar is just as good at it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just going back to what you were saying before about how she just sort of appeared out of nowhere. And I mean, I was kind of young when she, you know, I was probably like 11 or 12 when she came out, but I thought she was around forever. You know, I thought, you know, because the way she hit, it was like she was everywhere. You know, when those first 2 albums came out, it was like you always heard her on the radio. It was always, you know, Pat Benatar this, Pat Benatar that. You know, she was always in the forefront of everything.
I mean, it even made its way into Fast Times at Ridgemont High. This is the 4th girl this year that's fallen victim to the Pat Benatar look. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was like she came out fully formed.
Yeah.
Like she didn't really need to develop like the look, the sound, everything was just kind of like there.
And what was cool about it too, I mean, you know, just I I didn't catch on to her until like later when I was like 10 or, in like a little kid, because she was always on the radio. And then me and my friends used to watch that movie, The Legend of Billie Jean, all the
Yeah.
time. And there was the theme song to, but like,
Invincible.
right. But like anything you ever saw about her, it never felt contrived or like, so like an image that she created. She was always who she was, which, she always came off as very genuine in everything she did, which I think is really probably what has given her staying power and longevity in the long run. So
yeah, I think that's, and because there absolutely was acknowledged a certain amount of sexuality that she was selling as part of her image.
But it was never trashy either, though.
But she also had, but it just wasn't that. It wasn't like, oh, she looks really great and she could sing okay. Right. Like if she came out in overalls, right, and sang, you'd be like, holy, it was an aspect of that era, right, of that time with female artists, that she kind of was there and embraced it, didn't embrace it, just played the game, whatever. But she didn't really need to, because her voice, and as you see, as her career progressed, she kind of actually quickly kind of got away from it.
One thing that I kind of noticed that sort of assisted her in getting popular at that was the fact that most of the times, like, a girl singer has a tough time breaking in with the male audience.
Mhm.
And I think the male audience, they gravitated right to her. She sang songs that a guy could go around singing out loud and not, and it would seem normal,
Yeah, good point. Because she has a certain attitude,
yeah,
about her. There's a certain toughness, like,
I was gonna say there's that Long Island, New York edge to her that I think,
like, I'm not taking any crap off anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about Pat Benatar, it kind of made me think about, like, what other hard rock female vocalists were around at that time. And I was kind of Googling, and I was getting, I Googled, like, female rock artists from the 70s and 80s. And I was getting, like, Carly Simon was, like, listed, Anne Murray. And I'm like, where's, like, the rock? And the only ones I could come up with myself were Ann Wilson from Heart. And Benatar is in that league. Linda Ronstadt and Benatar is in that league vocally. Stevie Nicks, who is not in that league vocally. Stevie Nicks sings in a different kind of way, but she was a rock singer. And Debbie Harry from Blondie. In that era, in that late 70s, early 80s.
In that era too, like, the one thing you think about Pat Benatar is that Pat Benatar is the kind of artist, especially on her early records. Those are the records where you're listening to them and, like, they'd be at home in the collection of somebody that's listening to, like, the Stones or Zeppelin or, like, early 80s hard rock. Like, I don't know that you would get the same listener from, say, like, a Blondie. You know what I mean? Like, is there somebody really in that zone that, like, she really wanted to rock and roll? Like, this is a rockin' album. Like, Blondie's amazing. I love Blondie, but to me it's almost like a different type. Like, they're in a different niche than, say, Pat Benatar is in some respects.
Yeah, different type of singer. Yeah, no, absolutely. But that was all I could come up with when I was kind of trying to think of hard rock. Again, not dismissing other female artists at the time,
right?
But as far as ones that were, like, considered, like, in the rock genre, it was pretty much those four.
Well, Joan Jett, maybe.
Joan Jett was there because, she was kind of transitioning from the Runaways to a solo career.
Right,
like, I Love Rock and Roll was still a little bit away, not far away.
Right.
But she's not a powerhouse vocalist. I mean,
no, definitely not.
Vocally, her vocal isn't really actually what she's known for. She's known for more, like, power chord.
Right. But, like, punky rock and roll. Yeah.
Yeah. Punky attitude kind of, Ramones style.
Right.
Stuff, but she would absolutely be in the conversation as well. So yeah, this album, it's funny. The previous album, her first album, was produced by Mike Chapman, who produced Parallel Lines by Blondie. But this one was produced by Crimes of Passion was produced by Keith Olsen, who worked with Fleetwood Mac. He worked with Heart, Saga, Foreigner, Scorpions, Journey, The Babies, Joe Walsh, 38 Special, Ozzy, So he, is a good fit. And this album sounds fantastic. Like, this album really just is clear,
Right.
Mhm.
and crisp and not muddy, and you want that, especially when you're really listening to vocals,
Yep.
you want them to come through.
And then, and with that said, I guess maybe because it's the dawn of the '80s, you don't have that '80s sheen. Like, there's still like a bite to the guitars and a bite to the production that you want on a good rock and roll record too.
Yeah.
Right. It's guitar oriented. You don't have like the keyboards that come in later in the 80s.
Right.
The heavy synth and keyboard sound. Neil Giraldo, I think, is the unsung hero here. Also, he really pulled the album together and gave it that edge that we were just talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he absolutely anchored the sound part of it, because
Yeah.
he came off of being in Rick Derringer's band. So he was kind of, cut his teeth there on, Rick Derringer was a pretty hard rocker in the 70s, because he had played with Edgar Winter.
Yep.
So, Neil coming out of that, pairing with Pat Benatar, yeah, it's a nice symbiotic relationship. That's someone that can really kind of bring that power, and he's not overly flashy. He does what needs to get done. His style is very competent. Can play the tough stuff, but provides that really just a solid, like, thick, crunchy, nice guitar sound to her that doesn't get in the way of it. He's not trying to showcase himself. He's playing in support of her music.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and what's interesting too is, like, and he's not also not like, yes, there's an edge to his playing, but it's also not like overly distorted either. Like, there's a lot of clean sounding guitar that really, he creates a vibe. It's not like all like go for the throat all of the time. Like, I like the fact that the record has different moods to it in that hard rock realm. I mean, but you still, like, Hell Is for Children, it's that slow build till you get to that really, like, driving part at the end. Or I'm trying to think of the name of the song now. It's like the second or third track in the album, almost has like a Police vibe to it, like Never Want to Leave You. Like, it's not all like go for the throat distorted guitar all the time.
Yeah. He definitely plays to the song. He doesn't. Yeah. He keeps it within the scope of the song, and that definitely helps to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, because if you get a guitarist that's a virtuoso but is unrestrained, you get a mess.
Yeah.
And again, this is Pat Benatar, and her instrument is really what we're there for.
Yep.
So, Rob, you hit the nail on the head, Rob, where the guitarist needs to be really good and a virtuoso, but needs to play for the song,
Mm-hmm.
and not as an audition for something else. And they only got more symbiotic as their relationship went on professionally and then personally. And then by 84, yeah, the synths would come in. She would do almost a 90-degree turn on her sound. But for this one, I want to try and connect 1980 with her, because, like I said, she seemingly came out of nowhere, fully formed. And here's some of the albums that came out in 1980, just to kind of frame like what the terrain was in 1980 with rock. You had the debut album from the Knack, which these guys were supposedly the second coming of the Beatles with My Sharona. Anytime there was a 4-piece band that had a really catchy, hooky song, it was the second coming of the Beatles. Anybody that was singer-songwriter and nasally was the second coming of Dylan. So Bruce Springsteen was the second coming of Dylan, and Mark Knopfler was the second coming of Dylan. Like, it was all, they wanted to ascribe, put a sign on these artists. And then, of course, U2's debut album, Boy, The Game by Queen. Actually, American Fool did come out in 1980, so he would hit with Jack and Diane, John Cougar, the same year, but I Need a Lover was at least a year or two old, and it was not like a hit, really.
It's like a radio hit, I'm sure.
Abacab by Genesis.
Wow.
Ozzy's Blizzard of Oz, Rolling Stones' Tattoo You, The Police, Regatta de Blanc, Tom Petty's Damn the Torpedoes, Bruce Springsteen's double album, The River, London Calling by The Clash, Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, which was huge, Phil Collins, Face Value, Van Halen 1, or Van Halen 1? Or just
Van Halen 1 was 78, Van Halen 2 was 79, and then I think 80 was Women and Children First.
Okay, they have just Van Halen listed. And then, of course, Pink Floyd, The Wall, Back in Black, and Thriller. So from a rock standpoint, and those were like the top, that was a list of the top 20s. There were no female artists there.
Yeah. No.
So again, this was a boys' club. Hart had a very difficult time. Linda Ronstadt was like the only one that really, really broke through, and Stevie Nicks did just vis-a-vis Fleetwood Mac first, and then she really had to claw her way to a solo career, right, and kind of break free from that. So again, for Pat Benatar to kind of just come in and just start swinging and land in roundhouses.
And you're still a year off from the Go-Go's, which is they hit in 81.
Yeah, Go-Go's, and then the Bangles, and then you would have the 80s Renaissance where you'd see a lot of female artists. But this was like a lonely, desolate place for female hard rock artists. It wasn't a thing.
No,
it was
not
like
at all.
pop art. Female singers were were pop artists. Dolly Parton, Carly Simon, all that kind of stuff. Olivia Newton-John. It was kind of like that kind of thing, not like growling like the way she does and snarling and prowling. So that's what makes this album really stand out in the kind of history of rock and roll. It's just kind of like she just playing by her own rules. Here's a fun fact: "You Better Run" was the second video played on MTV.
Yep. That I
So
know.
everyone knows "Video Killed the Radio Star" was the first one, but Pat Benatar was the second, which then makes Neil Giraldo the first guitarist on the channel, because the Buggles did not have a guitar player in their band.
That's true. I never thought about that. That's right.
So the first guitarist on MTV was Neil Giraldo.
That's funny.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, that's a fun stat. And her first Pat Benatar's first album was really heavy with covers.
Right.
Kind of getting the feel, and this one's got covers on it, and again, two very notable covers. And again, the "You Better Run," to me was the default version. I didn't get into the Rascals until like the late 80s or mid 80s. So I didn't even realize "You Better Run" was a Rascals song. What was that?
I was gonna say I didn't even know that was a cover.
Yeah, I mean, the Rascals. I went through a whole Rascals phase where I was and I'm like, wait, this is Pat Benatar.
Wow.
And I was like, well, no, actually, it's the Rascals. They did it.
Yeah, Felix Cavalieri wrote it. Wow.
Yeah. So for her to pick and again, that's what I love about her. She transforms the music that she does.
Yep.
She didn't try and make it sound like that. And like I said, her "I Need a Lover" resembles zero in common with John Mellencamp. And then Kate Bush.
Yeah. That's a great tune too. Wuthering Heights. That one stood out to me listening to that this week.
Again, we got to keep in mind, in 1980, Kate Bush in the United States, I might get some flack. She wasn't huge. She was a major artist, and she was huge in England, but she wasn't huge here. So for Pat Benatar to pick like Wuthering Heights just kind of shows her prowess, her connection to music, and really finding stuff that kind of she wants to sing. She could have gotten any big songwriter at the time to write something for her, but the fact that she picked that song, and she does it beautifully.
Yeah, she does. It's a great tune.
Yeah, I just love it.
And that's like the one ballad on the record too, or like the most standout or most ballad-y song. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Prisoner of Love is kind of up tempo. Never Want to Leave You is atmospheric, right? It's kind of it's in there, yeah. But Wuthering Heights is melodramatic as only Kate Bush can be. With her lyrics and stuff. But Peppa, she really does justice to it, and it really fits in, and it just shows like her range.
Yeah. I mean, she's like operatically trained too, Pat Benatar, isn't she? She had like
I think so.
She was going to go to Juilliard.
Yeah, she did.
And then she got sidetracked. I think she fell in love or something, and then
that'll do it.
Married the guy that gave her stage name.
Yeah. And then she kept it.
Yep.
Just like Susan Sarandon.
Yep.
The big hit, Crimes of Passion, has Hit Me With Your Best Shot is probably became her signature song. She doesn't perform it now.
I was just gonna say, yeah, she doesn't
Yeah, I
play
mean,
live anymore.
let's talk about that a little bit, and Rob can kind of understand that because the Stones don't do Brown Sugar
Brown Sugar, yeah.
anymore, right? But I want to scratch a little deeper, right? The Stones stopped doing Brown Sugar because the topic, the material is problematic.
Yes.
The lyrical content.
And the good thing for the Rolling Stones though is that they can they have a huge catalog that they can just mix and match. Her not playing, Hit Me With Your Best Shot. That's one of her most well-known songs.
Yeah, that's like Billy Joel leaving out "We Didn't Start the Fire." It's like he's got 20 other ones to replace it with. but so for the Rolling Stones, it was the subject matter that really was the problem. Now Pat Benatar is kind of she's not performing it for a reason. She feels that it's glorifying violence against women. And I never felt that way about the song.
I never felt. I never got that.
I don't ever. Yeah, I mean, what do you feel like, Chris? What
I mean, for me, like I always thought it was like a guy.
Not literally.
No, but like like a guy macking the slack to a girl and like, let's see, can you let me hear your line of bullshit and see if it really will work, or like what do you have to say to me that'll make me interested in you, like hit me with your best shot. Like I didn't never thought of it as like a guy smacking a woman around, and I mean I don't know that anybody ever really took it that way either, which is why I was always surprised by that decision, and it's fairly recent too.
Yeah,
I was surprised that she did that because I always grew up hearing that song at on sporting event type things, boxing matches or this, they always played that song at like sporting events for different things, and I never saw it as a negative, that song.
Yeah, it was like kind of give me what you got, like let's see what you got.
Yes, exactly.
Not in a physical way,
No, not at all.
I never took it like that. I always took it, and I took it as an empowering.
Yes, exactly.
Thing for women. Like I never took it as a demeaning thing. So in 2022, she stopped. She goes, yeah, and you know what? It's her song. It's her choice. I just never saw. I understand why Brown Sugar isn't played. I don't understand why Hit Me With Your Best Shot is not played.
Yeah, I agree.
She told USA Today in 2022 she would no longer perform the song in protest. Actually, it's got nothing to do with women's rights. She would no longer perform the song in protest of mass shootings in the United States. The title is tongue-in-cheek, but you have to draw the line. I can't say those words out loud with a smile on my face. I just can't. I'm not going to... Oh,
so she's taking it to a gun.
So she's saying, like, because, I guess...
Extrapolation.
With your Sandy Hooks and your nightclub shootings. I guess the whole idea of, like, using shooting as an alliteration to something.
I mean, that's even more tenuous to me, to be honest.
I remember that. I feel like I remember that now, and I remember being surprised by that because, like, it's always been kind of like a turn of phrase that people use. Like, come on, man, like when you're playing baseball, like pitching in there, hit me with your best shot, man. Let's see what you got.
I've never heard it referred with guns and shooting. I've never heard a sniper say, hit me with your best. Someone say, hit me with your best shot with a gun.
Right. So like, I never.
Yeah, I don't know.
Way. But I mean, you also got to think like people on the flip side of the coin, I guess you could say people are very affected by a lot of these shootings, and maybe it's just like for whatever reason, it makes her think about it. So, I mean, I guess that's her choice, but that's a big, but on the other side of that, that's also a big hole in her set list too. Like, I mean, she doesn't have she doesn't go as deep as, like you said, like a Billy Joel or a Rolling Stones or, one of those bands. So.
Yeah, I mean, and if you want a song that's like disturbing, look no further than the following track, "Hell Is for Children." I mean, geez, like like I'm listening to that and I'm like, oh my god, like this is awful. Like meaning, the subject matter.
And and you think about it too, is like she took a lot of shit for that song because it people misinterpreted the lyric because they thought like, it was that during the Satanic Panic, and like she hated kids and she wanted bad stuff to happen to kids, but like it's upsetting, but it's also very powerful. To me, that's the best song on the record. Like it's such a powerful song. Like, but having gone through that, why would you want to do that to yourself? Like, it's almost like she's doing to herself what people did to her with Hell is for Children.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that song is just like, if you could almost dismiss it as just a straight ahead rock song if you don't listen to the lyrics and you just listen to Hell is for Children. You listen to the chorus, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, rock and roll, like something Ozzy would sing, Hell is for Children, like you said. Yeah. But when you listen to the lyrics, it's like, wow, this is dark.
But it's powerful too.
Yeah.
It's like
and her
really
voice, and she's snarling,
and just
anger in this,
and the vibe of that guitar line, like the guitar tone, and just like the drawn out notes on that introduction, man. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, she's just. So yeah, she was in it to win it. She wasn't playing. These weren't little pop ditties and I love you, you love me type material. Which I think probably got her street cred back then. Hell is for Children back then. With a male rock crowd was probably like, like you said, and the way she delivers the songs, in a no nonsense kind of attitude-y way. I was just watching a live concert version of "Hit Me with Your Best Shot" from like that era, and she's just owning the stage. I mean, and it was a stadium show.
Yeah.
And she sounded, as close to the record as you're going to get. So there was no like, oh, okay, she sounds good on the record, but when you go see her, it's like, I mean, she was able to deliver and own, and it was a huge stage she was on, and she was just working the stage and just owning it, with, and she's like 5'0".
Yeah, she's
so
a tiny
like
lady.
An imposing presence on stage, but she had that stage under control.
And that's one thing that I when I was going through this album, I was listening to some live versions of her singing these songs on this album, and I think her live stuff is even better than the stuff on the album.
I would agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
She's a great singer. And I love the arrangements they have and everything live. There's something about the live stuff that she does that seems to bring it to another level than what's on the album.
Yeah, I mean, in '83, she would do Live from Earth, a live album. So, and she kind of did, really did it. And like I said, she's got the goods. And I don't think I've ever read anything about her like ripping her voice or,
Well, I mean, she's a trained vocalist, right?
Yeah, like Brian said, voice, or having like those rough years.
Right, because she probably knows how to take care of her instrument, unlike a lot of other rock and roll singers.
Yeah, she's just always like. Again, I keep drawing comparisons to Ronstadt just because they're so similar. They both have this massive instrument that they know how to use, and they both kind of took similar career paths. Ronstadt was in the rock scene longer, but then she started going off into a different direction. And Pat Benatar, after Get Nervous, she kind of really just started to kind of go in a different direction with Tropico. It was that song "We Belong," or Seven the Hard Way. Was it right? No,
Seven
Tropico.
the Hard Way. Yeah.
No, Tropico with the album with "We Belong." And it's the rough edges got smoothed out, and then she would totally kind of abandon rock. She'd go into like some bluesy stuff, Yeah,
I was gonna say in '91 she recorded like a blues record, right?
Yeah. I mean, this was her like none of her albums sold as much as this one.
Really, even like the ones with "Love Is a Battlefield" or really, I never knew that, or "Invincible."
Wow, "Love Is a Battlefield" that was added onto like a greatest hits type album, wasn't it, or something?
Really?
I'm pretty sure that wasn't like an album that had all new material on it.
No kidding.
Was it on? It was on Love Is a. It was on the live album as a studio.
Oh,
there was
live.
2 studio tracks.
Oh wow!
So "Love Is a Battlefield" was which is notorious for every artist has that one music video Billy
Yeah, oh,
Squire.
God,
Billy
yeah.
Squire had "Rock Me Tonight."
Well, Billy Squire, that ruined his career.
Yeah,
People say that ruined
which
his
essentially
career.
like took the man down.
Oh my God, that video is so
Love
bad.
is a Battlefield kind of came close because I don't know if you remember when that was on. It was always on MTV.
Yeah.
But that whole dance thing at the end with her was just not. It wasn't her thing.
For first, I also read that's the first video that had dialogue in it, and it wasn't just music.
Oh my
Well, yeah,
God.
she runs away from home in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
The overbearing father, and she's like a trollop, or she's trampy because she has short hair, and rebellious, and she leaves, and then like the little brother or like little sister is at home watching. They always have the same trope.
Oh my God.
Like like the protagonist leaves, and there's like a younger brother or sister watching this happen. And, missing the person that's leaving, and they're in their room by them, and they're powerless to do anything, but the other person's got to be free.
Oh my God.
So
really
and then in that video, she ends up like out on the streets, like in Hollywood, and she gets picked up as a dancer, like like paid for dancing back then.
Taxi dancing, yeah.
Yeah, so
that's funny.
Yeah, that was one of the that was kind of a we want to forget that video. Not quite the career ender that "Rock Me Tonight" was, which I remember when that came out. I'm
oh
like,
my God, that was so bad.
I like Squire.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Those first few
know.
records in the early 80s are great.
Oh yeah, he was like the king. I think
Yeah.
he's the same height as Benatar too. He's like 5 foot.
See,
he might be like 5'3". He's really short, Squire.
See, he doesn't record anymore because those records, they use the drums for the samples, and he owns his own publishing. So he just collects money from hip hop records now.
Yeah. He was doing screenwriting for a while, I think.
Wow.
Like he tried his hand at screenwriting, and he tried a lot of different things, but I mean, you like if you like, she is not out of like, if you back in that time, again, you gotta like, for people that weren't there, you have like Journey, you have Steve Perry on the radio, you have Pat Benatar, like all these artists were in their prime, right? Like Foreigner and Heart and like all, and it was just like this, all these artists that we talk about, we do records, like they were all there at the same time. They were all, Another One Bites the Dust was like dominating the radio at the time. I mean, it was just an amazing time for music.
And no auto tune.
No auto tune, but just there was just so many different things, and she punched and again she punched through it.
Yeah, she really did.
Which is what I really like about this album is it's got that sass and attitude that you need, to kind of make it through. She's not pulling any punches. There's no syrupy ballad on here. There's slow type songs, and but nothing that would be like, like you play Journey Escape, and then you play this album, and then you play like Head Games by Foreigner, and you're not skipping a beat. You're not really missing it.
Nope.
It all just kind of flows together.
It's a very cohesive album. All the tracks sort of worked together. There was nothing that on this album, nothing really felt out of place. It felt all complete. It was a well put together album.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, that goes to her song selection too. Like I said, she can integrate a blue-eyed soul number from the 60s from the Rascals, right? And then a progressive English female artist, Kate Bush. She can integrate those two really different types of songs on one album and make it cohesive.
And it sounds like her. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And she put her particular style on it, and that's not easy. Sometimes when artists do covers, they do a faithful cover, and it's like, oh, okay, you're doing a faithful cover. Like I think of like the Cult on their album Electric, they do Born to Be Wild, and it's pretty much what you'd expect it to be.
Yeah, that was a rough listen.
I mean, I love the Cult, but that's what you're going to expect it to be, right?
Yeah.
But Benatar transforms the music. She's and that's what great artists do, like Elvis Presley and artists that don't sing. They would transition to mostly original material, but being able to interpret other material, especially existing material that was already recorded, that's a talent.
And she's also not
Mhm.
picking things that are like overly obvious, like Born to Be Wild or Anarchy in the UK, or like, one of those covers that like, right away, like these, like I didn't know it was a Young Rascals cover until you said it. And like, I didn't even really think about the fact that Wuthering Heights was a Kate Bush cover. Like they're not overly obvious. It's like not just picking the cover, but picking the right cover,
Yeah.
and a cover that not everybody already has a preconceived notion of what it's supposed to sound like, so you can make it your own.
But it also and it gives you an indication of where she's coming at, right? She must have been listening to Kate Bush,
Right.
who's really a very different type of artist, very much more theatrical, just like progressive music is. It's kind of a little. She was very artsy, Kate Bush, and very
She absolutely
dramatic.
was.
And like I said, then you have the Rascals from the '60s. Good Lovin', if you really need what their big hit was. So those two types, and that's heavy, organ organ. Rascals are very organ keyboard heavy.
And it's also indicative of where she's from, because the Rascals were huge in this part of the country back in the '60s, and
Yeah, they were a New York band, and she's from what?
she's
Brooklyn?
from Lyndhurst, Long Island.
Yes, Long
Lyndhurst.
Island,
Okay.
She was born in Brooklyn, but raised
Yeah,
in
born
Long
in
Island.
Brooklyn. See?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah. I don't know how much more is there to say about her without being redundant.
Yeah.
She finally got her due. Getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was huge, because I was so afraid that if there was somebody that would be looked over, it'd be her, because her career changed relatively rapidly, and then she kind of really fell off.
I mean, yeah, after that one record in '91, I think she put out like maybe 3 more records, and none of them really did anything. Like, to the point where the last interview I heard her give, she was on, not that I want to name drop another podcast, but she was on Billy Corgan's podcast with Neil Giraldo.
Of all the ones you're going to name drop, not that one, not his.
But
People have given me feedback,
yeah,
like, you talk too much on the podcast.
yeah,
I don't know
he
if I'm the host,
so bad. Yeah,
but I look at the comments for Billy Corgan. They're like, when is this guy going to shut up and let someone talk?
he continuously interrupts the people. But when they actually speak, the one thing that they were talking about is that Neil Giraldo, I think, is more amenable to the idea of like recording new music, and she's not. And I think it's because she doesn't see the value in it, because people don't buy records anymore, and people who go to see Pat Benatar want to hear what was recorded in 1984, not what's going to be recorded in 2026.
Yeah,
so.
Billy Joel's attitude, exactly.
Yep.
I have nothing to say. Dennis DeYoung's attitude, exactly. Also, like, people,
didn't Dennis DeYoung just put a record out like less
he did.
than
He
5
put out
years
his
ago?
final album. It was like a prog album. He was like, "This is it. I'm putting out." It was like a volume 1 and a volume 2, like 2 years ago.
Too. I listened to it. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, and he's like, "That's it," and he had to be convinced to do it. So there is, yeah, but but then and we'll use the Rolling Stones again. Let's use Rob's favorite band, and we'll use the Stones again as another example of a band that's still putting out new music that people are embracing. I mean, yeah, record sales don't mean as much anymore, but the fact that they're in the public eye and they put out something new and people get excited about it.
Yep.
See,
yeah.
And it might come and go pretty quickly. I mean, Hackney Diamonds didn't. It had some staying power.
Angry was a great single, man. That was a great song.
Yeah. So I'm conflicted. I hate to see, because then you're automatically ascribing yourself as a jukebox act. You're a jukebox act.
Right.
And the big Benatar fans, I'm sure, are clamoring.
And not for nothing too. Like, the thing about Pat Benatar that I think about is, like, you get like a Pat Benatar. Like, I feel like if you got her to record with, like, say, like a Taylor Swift or a Laura Jane Grace or a Lady Gaga or one of those, like somebody who's a little bit more contemporary, that, say, somebody like my daughter or my wife would have, like, grown up listening to, I feel like that would catch attention in a way that would bring attention to her old shit. Like if she did something like that, I think it would bring people. It would probably bring people around to, like, checking her stuff out. So
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, that I it kept coming in my head. Collaboration. She should, if she collaborated with someone who's because, I mean, because really after the '80s, she didn't really, so there's a whole generation that grew up there that didn't really listen to her. But I think if she collaborated with a more modern performer, I think she'd be able to hold her own, vocally wise, and I think I would be great for her.
Like even Kelly Clarkson did I don't know if she still does, but there was a time where she performed "Hit Me With Your Best Shot" live. Like the two of them, like to me, that's like a perfect fit because like Kelly Clarkson, yes, she's a pop artist, but she also can rock it up.
Yeah.
I know because my wife listens to her,
and she's
she
got
can rock it
vocal.
up.
She's got a pipe.
She's got power in her voice, and she can rock it up if need be. So
yeah, and Benatar's voice, her voice is still in great shape too. So it's not like she's an embarrassment tour.
No, not at
you
all.
Go see people, and you're going to go see him, and you like when you go see David Lee Roth. It's like we're going for the spectacle. We know it's not going to be good. Like your expectations are tempered. You know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Well, Benatar still has a great vocal range. Her voice is still strong, so she could be making new music. And at some point something might hit, but if you just stop, you're never gonna find that out. And especially now, if it's like, Pat Benatar's first album in 15 years, people will be like, oh wow, okay. Just like Billy Idol was able to do that. He was able to kind of parlay a renaissance.
Yeah, he was
kind of coming back. He started making EP. He's like, I'm not making albums anymore. I'm going to make EPs. I'm going to make like 4-song, 5-song little EPs and put them out.
And that documentary he made, that's another thing she could do too. Is like that documentary Billy Idol made was fascinating. Like, so like, I feel like there's a story for her to be told behind the music she made, like 15 years ago.
Yeah, because she's got, she was at a very interesting time in rock and roll. It was transitional. She was a woman in a boys' club. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot there for her. And yeah, I feel bad that she's relegated to "Hit Me With Your Best Shot" on like the oldies station.
Or "Love Is a Battlefield."
Yeah, because you're not going to hear "Treat Me Right," which is a rocking song. I mean, that's
a great album opener. Oh man,
she could spit fire. Yeah, she spits fire, but "We Belong" is what you're going to hear. And that's not indicative of her. That's not the best that Benatar has. I think people are kind of, they're getting glossed over this early stuff, which was really the fire is here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you get "Heartbreaker," which is George Steinbrenner's favorite song.
Oh Lord.
I love Seinfeld.
"Shadows of the Night," that was on "Get Nervous."
Yeah.
And then
"Invincible" is
"Promises in the Dark" is the song that rips.
Yeah.
Like when it's got that stop at the end, like when she's like, "Promises in the," and then it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then she's like, "Duh," and it just takes the word dark and just sails it into the sunset. Again, like someone that's got that kind of like power and ability, it's like I would love to hear a new Benatar album. I'm not her hugest fan. I have utmost respect for her, but I would be intrigued if she came back and was doing like a rock, and her and Neil Giraldo did like a rock album within their framework. It doesn't have to sound like 1980, but I'm sure they have it in them. I would love to hear it.
Or even just like to hear what Neil Giraldo would do on his own, because like he's a pretty brilliant guy, but he's always like not just with Pat Benatar, but it's always like with somebody else, like whether it's Rick Derringer,
or
somebody else.
I think he played with, and
or he produced. There's somebody else he produced.
Rick Springfield.
Right? He played on the first Rick Springfield, or not the first Rick Springfield record, the breakthrough Rick Springfield record. Like, what would he do if he were like just given the reins and say, "Here, write and record this record"? Like, I'd be curious to hear what that would sound like.
Yeah, I'm surprised he never put out like an instrumental album or something, just like his own little
exactly.
Project, so.
That brings up a sore point for me these days. Is that guitar rock? You don't hear it today. You don't hear any guitar rock.
No, not at all. Nope.
It's completely.
What about those guys, Angine de Pontine or whatever they're called? Heart Attack in French.
Jonathan's going to see them.
Everyone's talking about that now. Semitone music is now a term.
Can I tell you what though? It is for what it actually is very fascinating to watch them play. And like the music is actually pretty listenable and stuff. I use them in my economics class as an example of word of mouth advertising.
I've never seen backlash so quickly. It went from these guys are cool, and now everybody they're like, we need to move off of this already. Like, they have flashed in the pan already. Like, they didn't even get 15 minutes. They got like 12.
Really? I
Yeah,
think
it was like a musical oddity, and now people are like, okay, we get the gimmick and we're done. Like, I guess the listening public is very fickle for this, because and maybe, and this is supposedly like a lot of the music cognoscenti, you know, the guys that you know that like music, they're like, yeah, this is, you know, this is not a lasting thing. It's not going to be something.
I mean, I found it interesting. It wasn't like anything like my brother was like, "Oh, I got to go see this live." I'm like, I don't know if I need to do that.
Yeah, it's more of like a musical oddity.
Yeah, so
than something, you know. But now like semitone music is like a thing now.
That was only the second time I ever saw a semitone guitar too. The only other time I saw a semitone guitar was when Dweezil Zappa was like on some like video podcast where he was showing all of his instruments. That's the only other time I've ever seen a semitone guitar like that.
Rob, you got a semitone back there? I see like 6 guitars.
No, got my Telly, got my Guild,
Okay.
my Ibanez. No.
All right. If Rob doesn't have a semitone, then it hasn't hit critical mass yet. It's not mass popularity yet if he doesn't have a semitone guitar. So we're safe. All right, let's move on. Let's start to close it out. That we want to do. Rob, why don't you give me some favorite tracks? Try not to pick the hits, if you can avoid it.
One of the songs that I kept coming back to was "Little Paradise."
Yeah,
the first. I love the guitar riff in that. That would, and just the whole vibe of that song. That one stuck with me for a while. I kept coming back to that one. Yeah, and the other one, "Never Want to Leave You." Every once in a while in that song, it's got like a little bit of a reggae beat almost to it.
Yeah,
and I thought that was pretty interesting.
It reminded me of the Police, actually. If I'm being honest.
Yeah. So I like those 2 songs. You know, outside of the main hits, those 2 stood out for me on the album.
Chris, what do you got?
I was gonna say "Treat Me Right." I think is a great rocking opener. Like, it grabs you right, like it's a great, grabs you right on the way in. I really do like "Never Want to Leave You." I love that reggae vibe to it. And I know it's not the hit. I know it's probably like the radio hit that everybody knows just because of the attention it caught. But "Hell Is for Children's" always been my favorite song on this album.
Yeah. But I like, you know, if there's a pop song on this album, it's "Prisoner of Love."
Yep.
And I kind of dig it because it is the one song that kind of loosens things up a little bit, and kind of like, here's just a little pop number, which I like. And again, I was taken aback by "Wuthering Heights," you know, because it's a story song, and because it's so tied to an actual piece of literature. She's got to sell it, you know, with Heathcliff and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's important, and especially in that era, you know, or maybe 2 or 3 years from there, you would get an electronic reinterpretation of it with synths or whatever, and it wouldn't work, you know. So it came at the right time for her to kind of do it the right way, where, you know, before all the electronic technology would come through and you're trying to put like Yamaha DX7 horns on it or stuff that would just be phony sounding. I like that it's sparse in a rock way. And then, Hell Is for Children is just a scorcher. Jeez Louise. You know.
Yeah, I was listening to a live version of that just before, and even the live version was awesome.
Oh, it's amazing.
It was really good.
They used it in the show. It was a good needle drop moment. Was in the show Mindhunter, when they're finally catching like one of the killers at the end, and like it was a killer who killed little kids, and that opening riff kicked in. It was really cool needle drop moment on that show. So
see that? All right. I think that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. If you made it this far, we thank you very much for sticking with us. Don't forget, new episodes come out each week. So if you haven't hit the follow button yet on your podcast app, go ahead and do that now. We will wait 2 seconds. 1, 2. Thank you for doing that. This way you get a notification when new episodes come out. And like I said, we've got a ton of stuff in the back as well that you could check out and sort through. It's our first Benatar, but I thought it was about time. You know, I was been thinking about her for a while. I'm like, yeah, we got to get Pat Benatar into the mix. She fits so well with what we do. So, and I'm glad you guys could make it. Rob DiStefano, thanks,
It's great
man.
to be here. Yeah, no, I love it. I love doing these.
And,
It's
and I
awesome.
don't know how you did it. You worked the Rolling Stones into the conversation. I did that. But we didn't work Zeppelin into it. We didn't compare her to Robert Plant or anything. So
Although we probably should have, because I've heard her say that was kind of like her benchmark, was like she wanted to be like a Robert Plant, like more type singer. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. See that? Christopher Clark.
Thank you for having me, man.
Thanks, man.
It's good to be here. This is a good record.
Yeah, it was a great one. I appreciate you coming on and sitting in while Eric
always a pleasure.
Takes a sabbatical, and Eric will be back with us in very short order. So we're looking forward to having him back in the seat. And that's going to do it for this episode. We thank you for joining us again. If you want to hit us on the socials, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, so you can do it there too if you want to comment or continue the conversation. We're always good to go there. We love the interaction. We love chatting with people that have, even if you have contrasting opinions, we love it as well. So if you think you're up to it, hit us with your best shot. Hey, like that.
I saw that.
Dad joke incoming. I need like an effect, like dad joke incoming, like so I can fire it off. So that's going to do it for this episode. For Rob, for Chris, this has been Dean, and we will catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.